October 1921. Babe Ruth is facing down the most powerful man in baseball, Commissioner Kenesaw Mountain Landis, the man who controls every player in the league with absolute authority, the man who can end careers with a single decision, the man who answers to nobody. Landis has issued an ultimatum. Do not go on that barnstorming tour, or I will suspend you. Ruth's answer is simple. You cannot stop me. 2 weeks later, Ruth is suspended. Career in jeopardy. Every newspaper in America writes the same story. Ruth is finished. His defiance will be his downfall. But nobody knows the truth. Nobody understands what Ruth is really doing. Ruth wanted this suspension, planned for it, sacrificed everything for it. Because sometimes the only way to change an unjust system is to break it. And this suspension will change baseball forever. This is the story of the day Babe Ruth chose to lose a battle so he could win a war. New York City, October 15th, 1921. The season just ended. Yankees finished third. Babe Ruth had another spectacular year. 59 home runs, 177 RBIs, 378 average, best player in baseball. But the season is over, and Ruth has plans. Barnstorming tour plans. Plans that will put him on collision course with the most powerful man in baseball. Ruth sits in his apartment reviewing contracts, barnstorming tour contracts. After the season, players travel to small towns, play exhibition games, easy money. For towns, a chance to see Babe Ruth in person. Everyone wins. Except there is a problem. Commissioner Landis issued a new rule. Players who participated in the World Series cannot barnstorm. The reasoning? Barnstorming cheapens the World Series. If championship players immediately play exhibition games for money, it makes the title less sacred. The Yankees did not play in the World Series this year. Finished third. So, technically Ruth can barnstorm. No problem. But there is a complication. Ruth's contract was signed before the season ended, before anyone knew the Yankees would miss the World Series. And Landis is looking for a test case, someone to prove his authority is absolute. Babe Ruth is the perfect target. Landis is 55, former federal judge, appointed commissioner in 1920 after the Black Sox scandal. His job is to restore integrity. He has unprecedented power, absolute authority over every player, can suspend without appeal, ban for life, fine, punish. Nobody can overrule him. Landis is the law. October 18th, 1921. Ruth receives a telegram. Report to my office tomorrow. 10 a.m., Kenesaw Mountain Landis. Ruth knows what this is about. The barnstorming tour. He could cancel, avoid confrontation. But Ruth does not like being told what to do. It is about principle, about freedom, about whether the commissioner can control every aspect of a player's life. Ruth arrives next morning, 10 a.m. sharp. The office is designed to intimidate. Dark wood, heavy leather chairs, massive oak desk. Behind it sits Landis, white hair, sharp gray eyes, face carved from granite. He does not stand, does not offer handshake, points to a chair. Sit. Ruth sits, alert, ready. Landis picks up papers. Your barnstorming contracts. You signed these before knowing if the Yankees would make the World Series. Correct, Ruth says. The rule is clear, Landis continues. Players who participate in the World Series cannot barnstorm. It cheapens the championship. I did not participate, Ruth points out. We finished third. The spirit of the rule is to preserve dignity, Landis says. You are the most famous player. If you barnstorm, you undermine the World Series just as much. I did not play in it, Ruth says. How can I cheapen something I was not part of? Do not argue semantics. Landis slams his desk. I am the commissioner. I interpret the rules. Cancel this tour. Now. Ruth stares. No. What did you say? I said no. I am not canceling. I signed contracts. People expect me. I am going. Then I will suspend you. For how long? As long as necessary. Ruth stands. Then suspend me. But I am going anyway. Landis's face turns red. Sit down. Ruth walks to the door, turns back. You think you can control me? I am Babe Ruth. Fans pay to see me, not you. Remember that when stadiums are empty. He leaves, slams the door. Landis sits furious, humiliated, but also calculating. This is the test. The opportunity to prove nobody is above the commissioner, not even Babe Ruth. October 20th, 1921. Ruth's tour begins. Buffalo. 5,000 people pack the stadium. They cheer when Ruth takes the field, go wild when he hits a home run. Next day, Scranton, 6,000 fans. Another homer, day 3, Elmira, 4,000. Ruth is having the time of his life. But Commissioner Landis is watching, reading reports, seeing photographs, his anger growing. Ruth is openly defying him. On October 23rd, Landis issues a statement. Effective immediately, Babe Ruth is suspended from organized baseball until further notice. Mr. Ruth willfully violated a direct order. He has shown complete disregard for rules and integrity. Until he demonstrates proper respect for authority, he will not play professional baseball. Teammates Bob Musell and Bill Piercy also suspended. The baseball world explodes. Babe Ruth suspended. Commissioner bans baseball's biggest star. Sports writers take sides. Some support Landis. Rules are rules. Ruth broke them. Others support Ruth. The rule is unfair. Ruth did not play in the World Series. Landis is on a power trip, but most agree this is bad for baseball. Ruth continues the tour. Defiant, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, everywhere crowds turn out, not just to see baseball, to see the man who stood up to the commissioner, the rebel, reporters ask. Are you worried about the suspension? Ruth's answer never changes. I did nothing wrong. Landis is drunk on power. He will lift it. He has to. But privately, Ruth is worried. The suspension has teeth. Yankees cannot pay him while suspended, losing salary, endorsement deals in jeopardy, and no end date until further notice. Could be weeks, months, years. Ruth could lose everything, career, fame, fortune, all because he refused to back down. November 10th, 1921. Tour ends. Ruth returns to New York. Reporters mob him. Will you apologize to Landis? No. Will you ask him to lift the suspension? No. Are you worried? Ruth pauses. I am not worried. I did what I believed was right. If baseball does not want me, other sports will. But baseball needs me more than I need baseball. Bold, arrogant, but strategic. Ruth is calling Landis's bluff. Next day, Ruth meets his lawyer. They discuss options, legal challenges, public pressure, negotiation. But Ruth has another idea. I am not going to fight this suspension. What? The lawyer is confused. I know, Ruth says, but Landis wants to prove he has power. Let him. Let him suspend me. Babe, you could lose hundreds of thousands. I know. But sometimes you have to lose a battle to win a war. Ruth has realized something. Landis suspended him to prove authority, to show every player in baseball that the commissioner's word is final, that nobody can defy him, that the rules apply to everyone, even Babe Ruth, especially Babe Ruth. But the suspension is also a test of how far Landis is willing to go, how long he is willing to keep the sport's biggest star on the sidelines, how much damage he is willing to inflict on the game itself to prove his point. And Ruth knows something Landis does not fully appreciate. Something the commissioner cannot see because he is too focused on authority, too invested in control. Every day Ruth is suspended. Baseball loses money, massive amounts of money. Fans stop coming to games. Why pay to watch the Yankees without Babe Ruth? Ticket sales drop across the entire league. Not just in New York, everywhere. Because when the Yankees travel, people buy tickets to see Ruth. Take Ruth away, and attendance falls, revenue falls. The owners start complaining. Quietly at first, then louder. And the owners have power too. Different power than the commissioner, but power nonetheless. They control the money, they control the franchises, and if Ruth stays suspended long enough, they will force Landis's hand. Ruth is gambling on this, betting that the economics of baseball will overwhelm Landis's need for authority. That money will beat pride. It is a dangerous gamble. If Ruth is wrong, Landis could keep him suspended for years, could destroy his career out of pure stubbornness. But Ruth does not think Landis will do that, because Landis loves baseball, and keeping Ruth suspended hurts baseball, hurts the sport Landis was hired to protect. So Ruth waits, accepts the punishment, does not fight, does not complain, just lets the suspension run its course, lets the pressure build, lets the owners see what baseball looks like without Babe Ruth, and trusts that they will not like what they see. December 1921. Ruth waits. Suspension remains. Baseball enters off-season. No games, just silence. And during that silence, something happens. The barnstorming rule starts being questioned. Writers write columns. Is the rule fair? Team owners do math. How much money lost if Ruth is suspended for entire 1922? Yankees calculate. Millions. Ticket sales, concessions, merchandise. Ruth is not just a player, he is a business. Without him, the team loses revenue, not just Yankees. When Yankees visit, opposing teams sell out. Everyone wants to see Ruth. If suspended, every team in the league loses money. Owners pressure Landis. Privately, quietly. Behind closed doors, they make concerns clear. This suspension hurts business. Find a way to end it. Landis is in a difficult position. If he lifts it too quickly, he looks weak, like Ruth won. But if he keeps Ruth suspended too long, he damages the sport. Alienates owners, loses fans. Game of chicken, who blinks first? January 1922. 2 months into suspension. Landis issues statement. Suspension will remain for first 6 weeks of 1922 season. Ruth eligible May 20th, 1922. 6 weeks, 40 games, 1/4 of the season, salary lost, statistics lost, expensive, very expensive. But Ruth does not complain, does not protest, does not apologize. He simply accepts it, because this is exactly what he wanted. Long enough to hurt, to make Landis feel like he won, but short enough that Ruth can return. And during those 6 weeks, something important will happen. The barnstorming rule will be reconsidered. February 1922. Owners meet. Agenda includes the barnstorming rule. Owners argue. The rule is too broad, punishes players unfairly, needs modification. Landis listens. He knows. This is pushback. Owners want the rule changed because the rule costs them money. After debate, a compromise is reached. The rule will be modified. World Series players still prohibited from immediate barnstorming, but prohibition only lasts until November 1st. After that, all players can barnstorm freely. Small change, but significant. It loosens Landis's grip, gives players more freedom, proves even the commissioner's rules can be challenged, can be changed. Ruth knows why this happened. Because he defied Landis, because he took the suspension, because he proved rigid enforcement has consequences. The rule changed because Ruth forced the issue. Before we continue with Ruth's return, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you are loving this story of rebellion and strategy. Drop a like if you respect Ruth's courage. Now, here is what we want to know. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And answer this. Have you ever had to sacrifice something important to prove a principle? Did it work? Let us know. March 1922. Spring training begins. Without Ruth. Yankees train in New Orleans. Ruth stays in New York. Works out privately. Waits. Press writes stories. Ruth's exile. The missing Sultan of SWAT. Yankees struggle. Not the same without Ruth. April 1922. Opening day. Yankee Stadium. Yankees play without Ruth. Attendance down, energy flat, team loses, week after week. Yankees mediocre, hovering around 500, not championship caliber. Everyone waiting for May 20th. May 20th, 1922. Ruth's suspension ends. He reports to Yankee Stadium. Crowd goes insane, 30,000 screaming. Ruth tips his cap, steps to the plate. First at bat, first pitch. Home run. Stadium explodes. Ruth is back, and he is angry. Not at Landis, not at the suspension. At the time, he lost. He plays the rest of the season like a man possessed. 35 home runs in remaining games. Yankees surge, finish second place, and Ruth finishes with a statement. I am still the best. You cannot stop me. You can only slow me down. Years later, in interviews, Ruth is asked about the suspension. Do you regret defying the commissioner? No, not for a second. Landis needed to learn that authority without fairness is tyranny, and I needed to prove players are not slaves. We have rights, we have voices. Did you plan to get suspended? Ruth smiles, does not answer directly. But the smile says everything. He knew exactly what he was doing, gambled, sacrificed, and won. The barnstorming rule was changed, not eliminated, but loosened. And that change happened because Babe Ruth was willing to pay the price. Willing to lose 40 games, lose salary, lose time, all to prove a principle. That rules can be challenged, that authority can be questioned, that sometimes defiance is the only path to justice. Commissioner Landis never publicly admitted Ruth won, but everyone knew. The suspension was supposed to break Ruth, humble him, make him obedient. Instead, it made him a legend, the player who stood up to the commissioner, the rebel who changed the rules, the man who proved even the most powerful authority could be defied and survived. The lesson was clear. Babe Ruth played by his own rules, always had, always would, and baseball could only watch in awe, because Ruth was not just a player, he was a force of nature, unstoppable, uncontrollable, absolutely necessary. The suspension of 1921 was not Ruth's downfall, it was his coronation. The moment he proved he was bigger than the game itself, that he could lose a battle and win the war, that he could sacrifice everything and come back stronger. That is greatness. Not hitting home runs, not breaking records, but standing up for what you believe in, even when it costs you everything, even when the most powerful man in your sport tells you to back down, even when the smart move is to apologize. Babe Ruth never apologized, never backed down, never regretted it. And because of that, baseball changed, the rules changed, the power structure shifted, and a player proved he could challenge the system and win. That is the real story of the day Babe Ruth was suspended, not the punishment, but the victory that came from accepting it, the war won by losing a battle, the principle defended by paying the price. Babe Ruth understood something Landis never grasped. True power does not come from authority. It comes from being willing to sacrifice everything for what you believe in. And on that principle, Babe Ruth was undefeated.